The atmosphere was electric. My coworkers were all gathered at the new promotion party, celebrating what was supposed to be a momentous occasion. I had worked hard for years, staying late, going the extra mile, and showing up when others couldn't be bothered. It was my time. I had already imagined the congratulatory emails, the handshakes, and the recognition that would finally be mine. After all the effort I'd put into the company, I was confident that my hard work would pay off. I had every reason to believe the promotion was going to be mine. The title, the recognition, it was all in my grasp. But when my boss, Mark, walked into the room, he had a surprise for everyone. The room fell silent as he raised his glass and began speaking about the company's achievements. He praised the team, thanked us for our hard work, and then he announced the promotion. "Congratulations to Andrew, our new senior manager," Mark said with a grin, his eyes scanning the room. My heart stopped. Andrew, my new coworker, the guy who had barely been with the company for a year? The guy who had just finished his probationary period, while I had dedicated 5 long years to this job? How could this happen? The confusion hit me hard, but I forced a smile, trying to mask the sting. It wasn't about my pride. It was about professionalism. I couldn't let anyone see my disappointment. As Andrew took the stage, smiling and shaking hands with Mark, I stood there, clapping along with everyone else, my smile tightly controlled. I congratulated him. I had to. But inside, I felt betrayed. How was this even possible? The promotion was supposed to be mine. Andrew's face lit up as he thanked everyone, almost giddy with excitement. The room cheered for him, everyone celebrating this new milestone. I watched as he soaked up the applause, shaking hands, taking pictures, looking every bit the part of a successful, well-deserved candidate. The more I smiled and clapped, the more bitter the taste in my mouth became. But there I was, standing in the corner of the room, holding my drink, celebrating someone else's victory. I had been passed over for this promotion, and I had no idea why. I had given my all to this company, and yet it was Andrew, who hadn't even been here long enough to truly understand the company's vision, who was now being hailed as the new senior manager. I smiled, forced and tight, as I watched Andrew continue to accept congratulations, enjoying the moment. But in that moment, something inside me clicked. I realized that this wasn't the end of my story. There had to be something more for me than this moment of disappointment, but I wasn't going to make a scene. I would play the game. I would smile, congratulate Andrew, and hold my head high. After all, I had worked for this company long enough to know that sometimes life didn't follow the path you expected. But maybe, just maybe, this was the push I needed to finally take control of my future. The next few hours at the party were a blur. People gathered around Andrew, congratulating him, showering him with praise, while I stood in the background, my drink now forgotten. The sting of the promotion still lingered, but there was a shift in my mind, a growing realization that this wasn't how my story would end. I had spent so many years measuring my worth by the promotions, the raises, and the recognition I thought I deserved. But tonight, as I watched Andrew bask in the limelight, something inside me snapped. I was done waiting for someone to recognize my worth. I was done waiting for permission. As the night went on, I began to feel a strange mix of emotions: anger, frustration, and something else I hadn't expected: determination. I found myself slipping into the quiet corner of the room, away from the celebration. My mind raced. What could I do next? The promotion was gone, and Andrew was now the senior manager, but what if this was my chance to finally take control of my own future? I had worked for years with dedication, but what had it really gotten me? A job that was never enough? A boss who overlooked my contributions? And a coworker who waltzed in and took what was mine? It wasn't just about the promotion anymore. It was about proving to myself that I had more to offer than a title on someone else's terms. I glanced around the room at the smiling faces, the laughter, the chatter. Andrew was the center of attention, and for a moment I felt utterly invisible. But then, as if a light bulb went off in my mind, I realized something. I didn't have to play by their rules. I didn't have to wait for someone else's approval to rise up. I had skills, ambition, and ideas that no one had ever taken seriously, but that didn't mean I wasn't capable. I had what it took. I stood up straight, pushed the swirling emotions to the back of my mind, and pulled out my phone. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment when I stopped waiting for someone else to give me permission to succeed. With steady fingers, I started drafting an email to HR. The words flowed easily, more easily than I had expected. I wasn't going to ask for a promotion. I wasn't going to plead my case. This was going to be different. I was going to propose my own opportunity. I had spent so many years feeling overlooked, but tonight I realized that it wasn't about waiting for validation from anyone else. It was about creating my own path, stepping out from the shadow of others, and building a future on my own terms. I composed a proposal for a new project I had been passionate about for months, a project I had never shared with anyone because I feared it would be dismissed. But now I was confident. I knew my ideas were solid, and they deserved to be heard. As I hit send, I felt a surge of empowerment. The decision to take action, to step out of my comfort zone and make things happen, felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. This wasn't about Andrew or the promotion. This was about me taking control of my own destiny. No more waiting for someone else to decide my worth. I felt a sense of pride, a quiet triumph, and I knew that no matter what happened with this proposal, I had already made the first step toward something bigger. I was no longer a passive participant in my own life. I was ready to take charge, to break free from the expectations that had been imposed on me, and to define my own success. As the night went on, I found myself looking at Andrew in a different light. I had no ill will toward him. He had his moment, but now it was time for me to have mine. The journey had just begun, and this time I was going to make sure I was the one writing the story. The days after the promotion party were a whirlwind. I had sent off the proposal to HR, and although I didn't expect an immediate response, I felt an unusual sense of peace. The decision to take that step, to claim my own space, had shifted something inside me. I realized that while I couldn't control what others did, I had full control over what I did next. I was no longer going to let fear or doubt hold me back. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work with more energy and passion than I ever had before. I immersed myself in projects I had previously pushed aside, focusing on what I could control. I spoke up more in meetings, volunteered to take on new responsibilities, and didn't back down when my ideas were met with resistance. For the first time, I was seeing myself as a leader, not someone in the background hoping to be recognized. But even as I threw myself into my work, part of me couldn't ignore the looming feeling of disappointment. The rejection from that night, the rejection of the promotion I thought I deserved, still stung. How could I move forward when a part of me still felt so dismissed? Every time I saw Andrew walking confidently through the office, leading his team with ease, I felt the familiar pang of resentment. It wasn't that I didn't want him to succeed. It was that I had wanted to be the one leading, and the truth was hard to swallow. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk, deep in thought, my phone buzzed. I glanced at it, my heart skipping a beat as I saw the name flashing on the screen, HR department. I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing. Had they gotten back to me already? Was this a response to my proposal? Taking a deep breath, I opened the email. Dear, your name. We've reviewed your proposal and are impressed with the initiative you've shown. We believe this project could bring substantial value to the team, and we'd like to meet with you to discuss the next steps and how we can make this a reality. Please let us know your availability. Looking forward to your response. HR representative's name. For a split second, I couldn't believe what I was reading. They liked my idea. They wanted to meet with me. This wasn't just a small acknowledgement. It was a step toward making my vision a reality. I immediately called HR to set up the meeting, my hands shaking slightly as I made arrangements. This was my moment. It wasn't about the promotion anymore. It was about creating something meaningful on my own. I had taken the first step, and now the company was responding. Later that week, I walked into the meeting with a newfound sense of confidence. I wasn't just walking in to talk about a project. I was walking in as someone who had proved she was more than capable, someone who had stepped up, even when things didn't go the way I had hoped. I had earned this opportunity, not by waiting for it to be handed to me, but by making it happen myself. The meeting went better than I could have imagined. HR was enthusiastic about the project, and they could see the potential in what I had proposed. They were willing to back me, not just as an employee, but as a leader in this new initiative. When I left that meeting, I felt like a different person. It wasn't about Andrew's promotion. It wasn't about the job I didn't get. It was about the job I had created for myself. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that I had the power to shape my own future. The next few weeks were filled with excitement as I worked on bringing my project to life. I found myself collaborating with new people, building something that felt meaningful. It wasn't always easy, and there were times I doubted myself, but each success, no matter how small, felt like a victory. As the project progressed, something remarkable happened. I started to gain the respect I had always wanted, not because of a title, but because I had proven I could lead, innovate, and make a difference. People began to see me differently, and I realized that in the end, I didn't need a title to be a leader. I had already become one. As my project gained momentum, I began to see the changes around me, both in the office and in myself. I could feel the respect growing, not just from my peers, but from the upper management as well. I wasn't simply sitting back and waiting for a seat at the table anymore. I had taken my seat and was actively shaping the direction of this new initiative. But despite all the progress I was making, there was still a part of me that couldn't let go of what happened at the party. I had worked so hard to earn that promotion, and I couldn't just erase the feeling of being overlooked so easily. The sting of that rejection still lingered, and as much as I wanted to move forward, the hurt of being passed over was always in the back of my mind. One afternoon, as I was heading into a meeting, I saw Andrew sitting at his desk, looking as confident and comfortable as ever. He had been promoted, yes, but it seemed like his position had only made him more distant from the team. I watched as he dismissed a colleague's idea without even listening to it, his eyes glued to his computer screen, uninterested in any discussion that didn't center around him. It was in that moment that I realized something important. The promotion wasn't everything. It was the title, yes, but Andrew's ability to lead and inspire was limited by his own arrogance. He had what I thought I wanted, but I had something he didn't. I had the ability to connect with people, to listen to their ideas, to support them in ways he never could. I didn't need his title to prove my worth. That afternoon, I found myself sitting across from Mark, my boss, in a meeting to discuss the progress of my project. As we talked about the success and the challenges we were facing, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. I had started to take charge, not just in my project, but in my own life. The self-doubt I had carried for so long was beginning to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence that I could lead and thrive in my own way. After the meeting, Mark pulled me aside. "I've been hearing great things about your work," he said, his tone different from the usual formalities. "I've been impressed with how you've handled things. I think it's time we talk about your next step here." My heart skipped a beat. Was this what I thought it was? Was this the moment I had been waiting for? The chance to step into the leadership role I had been aiming for? "I'd like to offer you a new position," Mark continued, "one that aligns with the work you've been doing. I think you've shown the skills and dedication needed for this." The room seemed to go still for a moment, as though everything I had worked for was suddenly coming to fruition. It wasn't the promotion I had once imagined, but it was something more. It was a recognition of my true abilities, the skills I had developed on my own terms. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Thank you," I said. "I'd be honored." As I left Mark's office, I couldn't help but smile. I had gotten what I wanted, but not in the way I had expected. I hadn't needed to compete with Andrew or anyone else. I had earned this opportunity on my own. It was mine because I had proven to myself that I didn't need anyone else's approval to succeed. That night, I reflected on everything that had brought me to this point. The disappointment of that promotion party, the feelings of inadequacy and rejection, they had been the fuel I needed to push myself beyond my limits. I had taken control of my own path, and now I had the opportunity to help lead others in the way I always wanted. In that moment, I realized that the true victory wasn't in the title. It was in the confidence, the growth, and the knowledge that I had built this success, brick by brick, on my own terms. The journey had been hard, but it was mine. The weeks that followed were filled with a quiet sense of accomplishment. The new position I had been offered came with new challenges, but more importantly, it gave me the freedom to lead in a way I had always dreamed of. I wasn't constrained by titles or preconceived expectations anymore. I was in control, and that was something I had to remind myself of every day. As I settled into my new role, I began to see the difference in how people interacted with me. My team respected me, not because I had the highest title, but because they saw the way I treated them. I listened to their ideas, valued their contributions, and most importantly, I created an environment where they felt heard and supported. I didn't need to prove my worth by competing with Andrew or anyone else. I was building my success based on something more meaningful, genuine leadership and respect. The recognition I had wanted was no longer tied to a promotion or a title. It was tied to the impact I had on others and the difference I made in my workplace. Then, one afternoon, as I was reviewing some project reports, I received an email. It was from Andrew. My first reaction was surprise. We had barely spoken since the promotion party. I had made peace with the situation, but I never expected him to reach out. His message was short, but it caught me off guard. "Hey, I just wanted to say congratulations. I know things didn't go the way you wanted them to, and I'm sorry if I added to that frustration. I've been watching you lead your team, and it's clear you have something special. Keep it up." For a moment, I just stared at the screen. Andrew? Apologizing? It felt surreal, but it was a moment of closure. Not because I needed his approval, but because it showed me that I had earned the respect of others, even those who didn't fully understand or appreciate me before. I took a deep breath and hit reply. "Thanks, Andrew. It means more than you know. Wishing you all the best." It wasn't a grand gesture or a long conversation, but it was enough. It was a recognition of growth, his and mine. And I realized that the moment I stopped competing with him and started focusing on my own path, I had found something far more valuable than any promotion. I had found peace. A few months later, as I sat in my new office, looking out at the city skyline, I reflected on everything that had brought me here. The disappointments, the setbacks, and the moments of doubt. But through it all, I had built something stronger than any promotion or title could offer. I had built myself. And with that, I smiled to myself. The journey wasn't over, but I had learned one important thing. Success isn't about being the best on paper. It's about leading with integrity, staying true to your values, and having the courage to build the future you deserve, no matter how difficult the road might be.